Hey guys, what's up? It's Spartacus here. So today I'm going to do a little arena drafting guide um, to the best of my ability. A lot of different resources out there on how to draft arena, and I'm just going to give my take on them basically, or my take on drafting arena. I got about the high 60, like 68, 69% win rate in arena. So that's a little over, that averages out to a little over 6 wins. But obviously, there are high variations in that. Like the 12 win arenas really bring it up. And then, sometimes I'll have just a terrible run. But I'm going to give the reasons why I'm picking the cards because I think it's important that you understand why you're picking the cards in order to play the deck well. Because things like Hearth Arena, they tell you, what the best card is in value, but you just might not understand why and what the best way to play it is. So I'm going to do the draft and then I'm going to go through probably just a few of the games, not the whole thing. So I'm going to go with the most popular class, which is Mage right now. You see mages everywhere in Arena. They are the most common class. Uh, they are by far the most common when you start to get a high win rate. You'll see a lot of mages up there because of a few cards, which we'll hopefully see, and I'll be able to tell you guys about. So let's get started. Right now we have Bloodsail Corsair, which is a terrible card in Arena. There's no reason to just remove one durability. Matter Bomber and Kirin Mage. Both of them are good. Kirin Mage is good if you have secrets. It's actually excellent if you have secrets. But because this is the first pick of the draft, Matter Bomber is a good pick. If you're behind on board, it's a good catch-up card. Also a pretty fun card, but it also is very powerful. And hello, we have the super card. This is the card, Flame Strike, the reason why Mage is so powerful in Arena. Deal 4 damage to all enemy minions. It allows you to come back. It allows you to keep your tempo on the board. It is such a great card. So powerful. Okay, third pick. Uninspiring. Stone Skin Gargle might be the worst card in the game. Might be. I'm not 100% sure on that. But the fact that it's in there says a lot. Cogmaster is in a lot of mech decks. It's decent if you have a lot of mechs, but again, beginning of the draft, we have nothing. Ironfur Grizzly is pretty bad card, but sometimes the taunt can come useful. It is a 3-drop. It's a 3/3/3, and I'll take it right now. Okay, of these three cards, 2 mana 2/3s, meh, it's vanilla. Ironforge Rifleman, 3 mana 2/2, deal 1 damage is quite bad. And the Novice Engineer is the card I'm going to take here. It's worth noting that Novice Engineer is basically just a card that cycles. So I'm taking it because it'll allow me to draw the better cards in my deck, hopefully. This is not a card you play on turn 2. It is a card that you draw late in the game and you play it and then you get to draw another card. So it is a card you would mulligan away. Okay, these cards, they're all not bad. I'm going to take Spectral Knight. The fact that it can't be targeted makes it exceptional against some classes like Mage, which is very popular. Stormwind Knight, also not bad. A lot of 2 health things that it can remove. And Arcane Missiles is better suited for a really aggressive deck. And so far, I'm not sure what this deck will be, but Spectral Knight is the best choice. So when I draft, I want to go through some of the philosophy here. The first 10 or so picks, I just draft the best card. I don't care about how my curve looks down here right now, or my card draw, or any of that type of stuff. I just care about what the best card is for approximately the first 10. Then we start to look more into what I'm picking and to the details of how my deck's going to shape out. Fireball here Fireball's an incredible card. Frost Nova is very poor in Arena. It can get you back some tempo, but it's really useless, and we already talked about Stone Skin Gargoyle. Okay, so Ice Lance is very poor in Arena. It just doesn't do anything. Freezing, small tempo, it doesn't get you much. Of these two cards, Gilblin Stalker can be, it's an average 2-drop, I'd say. It's got the stealth, which is nice, but for the most part, you just try to play it on turn 2. Dancing Swords is a poor card to draw late, but it's a good one to have early. It's a good one for an aggressive deck. This deck doesn't say much that it's going to be aggressive or not yet. I think the Gilblin Stalker is just slightly better than the Dancing Swords, so I'm going to take it. Also, right now I have nothing to play on turn 2, but like I said, the first 10 picks, I don't really care about that so much. Okay, we got another good card here. Crazed Alchemist is usually fairly poor. It can be quite devastating, but the spare part that also swaps health, you'll get that as well. So Crazed Alchemist is less useful now that spare parts are out. Alarm Robot is actually probably the worst card in Arena. It is just terrible. I mean, I've used it before to get out of Deathwing in Arena, but it's usually very poor. It just trades for nothing. It can be killed so easily. And decks these days in Arena are a little bit faster, so slow cards like this are not so good. Blizzard, basically a 2-mana more Consecration, but the fact that it freezes everything can get you a little more tempo, so you can come back a little more. It's a good comeback card, and another board clear. Board clears are always nice, AoE. Always good. Okay, 3 rather uninspiring choices here. Ethereal Arcanist, I have learned, is not a card you want in Arena. I've even had it in a deck with like 6 secrets in Arena, and it still turns out to be bad because you can never play it on turn 4 unless you have a secret up. And if you have a secret up on turn 4, either you played it on turn 3, so you're already behind. It's just really bad. Usually you don't have a secret up on turn 4. So Ethereal Arcanist I find very poor in Arena. Injured Blademaster is good in not Mage, Priest. It can be good in Shaman, not so good in Mage. It's just a 3-mana 4/3. A little uninspiring, but at least it can match up against some of the more powerful 3-drops. And Pint-Sized Summoner sometimes trades poorly on turn 2. If it can survive, it can do a good job. I've seen it do a lot of good things, but for the most part, it doesn't do much. So Injured Blademaster is the card I'm going to take here. Okay, so we already talked about Alarm Robot. These 2 cards are very important in Arena, and I'm going to talk about them a little bit. Goblin Blast Mage, if you have a lot of mechs, or even a few, like even a few mechs, I think it's worth taking. It's just so powerful. It can be such a great turn 4 board swing. It can just win you the game, basically. But we also have another card that can win you the game, the Mind Control Tech. Again, if you fall behind, Mind Control Tech can become very useful. Now, Mind Control Tech in Mage I found is rather poor because people tend to play around Flamestrike and board clear, so they never really load up the board with 4 or more minions. So Mind Control Tech, for the most part, doesn't have a chance to get off. Now, I don't have any mechs, but mechs are fairly popular in Mage, or in general, and I assume I'm going to have at least a few, and the Goblin Blast Mage I assume will be able to get some value in this run. So, for now, I'm going to take the Goblin Blast Mage, whereas I value Mind Control Tech very highly in Arena, just not in Mage. Ugh. This is a very poor pick, and it seems like we've had a lot of those so far. I'm not sure if this deck's going to be very good. Ice Lance, again, doesn't really do anything. Ice Barrier doesn't do much. You can say it's 3 mana gain, 8 health. A lot of the times your health doesn't matter as much in Arena unless they're trying to rush you down. So sometimes it can be decent, but the fact that I have no way to just get it out clean, like I have no Mad Scientists, I don't have any cards that can just kind of summon it out without me actually having to pay the 3 mana, means that it's pretty poor card. And Raid Leader, also fairly poor card. This deck isn't all that aggressive. That's where Raid Leader shines. It shines in Paladin as well. It can do some decent things. But I am going to have to take it because these 2 are just significantly worse. So Raid Leader it is. Okay. Shield Bearer's incredibly poor. It doesn't do anything. It's basically like throwing away a card. Razorfen Hunter, technically it's 3/4 in stats, but the 1/1 tends to be rather useless. And Bluegill Warrior is a 2 mana deal 2 damage spell, basically. That's the way I look at it. Unless there's taunts or stuff in the way, it's removal. and it can be useful. So we'll take the Blue Gill Warrior. Okay, Mirror Image, fairly poor card. Again, doesn't really challenge much on the board. It has some synergies, but we don't have any of them in the deck right now. We're at about 12 cards, so we can start looking at synergies in the deck. We have no Pirates, so Ship's Cannon is basically just a 2/2/3, and I don't expect to draft Pirates and Mage. And Ogre Brute is a great 3-drop. 3 mana for 4/4 is great. The 50% chance can sometimes be bad, but usually it's threatening and it's alright. Well, another Flame Strike. And we're talking about the Snow Chugger. The Snow Chugger is actually worth considering here, I think. We already have 2 board clears, and we need mechs for the Goblin Blast Mage. Flame Strike is exceptionally powerful, though, and I expect to get more mechs. Snow Chugger, the freezing ability can be quite nice, but in general, I think it's just a little bit above average for a 2-drop, and Flame Strike is just excellent. Okay, this is an easy pick. These two, I talked about why they're bad. Fen Creeper is a rather average 5-drop. It's nice to have taunts, though, in a deck, especially when the meta can be a little bit fast, especially in your first matches. So, it's a nice card to have. Fireball, again, over the not-so-great cards. Ooh. Again, the choice between a mech or a Flame Strike. Oh, it's getting harder to keep the Flame Strikes. We have, well, 4 board clears. I mean, you don't want too many. A lot of times people just be like, nope, take Flame Strike, but eventually, you need minions to play to win. So I have 2 Flame Strikes, I have a Blizzard, I have 2 Fireballs. I think I can take 1 more Flame Strike, but I would like to get mechs. Mech Warper on its own without other mechs is actually very vanilla anyway. Okay. This is an easy pick. The Spiteful Smith is alright. In classes with weapons, especially Rogue, it tends to be pretty good, but even in Mage, it's alright. The stats are decent. Talked about Dancing Swords. Worgen Infiltrator is a fantastic card. Turn 1 drops in Arena, because of how Arena's gotten pretty fast after JVG, turn 1 drops are excellent. They can challenge the board, they can allow you to keep up, or allow you to be the aggressor. And Worgen Infiltrator is a good one. One of the few good 1-drops because of the stealth. So the 3 classes that can do 1 damage can't just pick it off for free. So usually it can trade up. It's an excellent card. Okay. So Priestess of Elune tends to be poor. Sometimes restoring your health is nice. In Warlock, I would say Priestess of Elune is where it's the best. I'm going to pick between Boulder Fist Ogre and Berserker. This wouldn't be a discussion in most other classes, but in Mage you can ping the Berserker and get it bigger, and it can really snowball. The other class that I like Berserker in is Priest, because you can heal it. But, in general, I mean, it has some glaring weaknesses. It can be Caballed, it can be Kodoed, and in general, the Boulder Fist Ogre is just better. Okay. Ancient Watcher is useless unless your deck is full of silences or taunt givers. So, I already talked about Pint-Sized Summoner being a little bit less than average. Sunwalker's an excellent card. Excellent card. It's very good, very defensive card. Okay. So, if you look at the curve, it's a little poor right now. We want more 1 and 2 drops. We want to be able to keep up in the early game, because if not, decks will just run over us. Even with the board clears, they'll just keep putting out more and more stuff, and we'll get run over. And we can't allow that to happen. Amani Berserker is the pick here. These 2 cards are very vanilla. 2 for a 3/2, 2 for a 2/3. Amani Berserker has the extra effect that we can ping it and allow it to trade up. In Mage is where it's the best. Otherwise, it's usually, it's another average 2-drop. But in Mage, it really shines. So I was talking about wanting to keep up on the board. So far, we actually have no mechs. And we do have this Goblin Blast Mage. Yeti is a fantastic card. Flame Cannon, also a great card, and Snow Chugger is also a good card. I'm going to take the Snow Chugger because it's a mech, and because I'd like 2 drops. Flame Cannon also is good. It's 2 mana removal, so early on you can play it to challenge things, but I'd like the Goblin Blast Mage to at least have some cards to use, and I'm going to need to prioritize mech just a tiny bit. I know it's weird for one card, but Goblin Blast Mage is one of those cards that can just be so powerful. Yeti is also a great 4 mana play. 4 mana, 4/5 are excellent stats. So all these are good cards, but I'm going to go with the Snow Chugger. Okay, easy pick here. Raid Leader is, like I talked about, fairly poor. The Murloc Raider, fairly poor. Even though it has the same stats as the Worgen, it can just get picked off for free. It is very uninspiring. Direwolf Alpha, while not great in Mage, has some uses. It can allow things to trade up, and if you look at it, I mean, look at Direwolf Alpha against Raid Leader. The stats are the same. Adjacent minions have +1 attack. All of your minions have +1 attack. There are very few times where you have more than 3 minions or 2 other minions out. Like Direwolf Alpha is just as good as Raid Leader, but for costing 1 less. So, I mean, it's very clear. This is another easy pick. Torn Warrior is fairly poor, although in Mage you can ping it, but in general, 3 for 2/3 is poor. Nightblade, 5 for a 4/4, also bad. Silverhand Knight, though, 5 for 6/6 in stats. Spread out. It's a great card in Arena. Okay, I was literally just about to talk about this, and we got some draw. So, getting draw in decks is important depending on the curve. If your curve has a lot of late game cards, you don't need as much draw because you're not going to run out of cards as quickly. If your curve is very low, let's say the 2s were up here, I had a lot of 2s and 3s and 1s, I would need a lot of draw. So this is a tough pick. Ogre Brute is an excellent card. Arcane Intellect can be excellent as well. This isn't easy. Ogre Brute. We don't... How many 3-drops do we have? This we can't play on 3, or Raid Leader we can't play on 3, excuse me. Ogre Brute, Grizzly, Injured Blade Master. That's only 3 3-drops. That's not very good. We need more. We need more things to play on turn 3. So I'm going to take the Ogre Brute, because I don't feel like I need the draw. I have one thing that cycles later on in the Novice Engineer, so we're going to take the Ogre Brute. Ah, yes. Magma Rager is the worst card in the game. People have talked about that. Well, there's a debate, but it's in there. Stranglethorn Tiger is a great card. It allows you to play a decent body on turn 5, and you can choose where the attack goes because of stealth. But we have a lot of late game. We need no more late game in this deck. The rest of this draft is all about early game. So we're going to take the Zombie Chow. Zombie Chow is an incredible card in Arena. Turn 1, playing this on turn 1 is just fantastic. It can challenge any 2-drop. It is really just a great card in Arena, and you want to snap pick a lot of these when you see them. Wow. This draft does not want us to have early game, does it? Ancient Mage is usually underwhelming, unless you have a ton of spells, but for the most part, it's tough to have 2 things to give spell damage to and play a spell on the same turn. Argent Commander is an excellent card. It usually 2-for-1s, meaning for the 1 card, you can usually take out 2 of their cards, so you trade it into one thing, and then they have to remove it by using something else. And Counterspell can be alright, but there are a lot of spare parts now, and that has really made the value of Counterspell go down. There are a lot of spare parts in Arena, and that's why I'm going to pick Argent Commander, even though the cost is high right now. We don't need any more late game. We're going to hope to survive early, but it's going to be tough. Okay, Harvest Golem. Harvest Golem is the pick here. Duplicate can be good. It's basically card draw, but you can kind of choose what minion you want to duplicate sometimes, and sometimes it can be really great. Elven Archer is underwhelming, and a Harvest Golem is a fantastic 3-drop. Okay, we got ourselves a Frostbolt. Early game removal, something we really needed. Mirror Entity, I think I value more than most people in Arena. I really like it. you basically get the exact same minion they get, but you give it charge. So you can basically negate any minion they play. Like if they play a minion, you get the same one, but you can charge into it and kill it or do a lot of damage to it, whatever the case may be. People can play around it, and Mirror Entity is the most popular mage secret in Arena. So people usually do play around Mirror Entity no matter what the secret is. But sometimes you force them to make plays that they don't want to play, and I think it's a very useful card in Arena, especially if you can find a way to get it out for free, like with Mad Scientist or Kirin Tor Mage. Young Dragonhawk is terrible. Don't pick it, please. Just don't. Okay. Our last pick. The Illuminator, we have no secrets, so it's very vanilla. Imp Master is an interesting card. I like it in Arena. It gives a lot of board presence for 3 mana. It doesn't really challenge much, but it kind of soaks up a lot of damage because they have to keep hitting the imps and whatnot so they don't get buffed. But Knife Juggler is the superior 2-drop in the game. How about I put it like that? It's a fantastic card, and if you can get the board lead early and have the Knife Juggler stick, you can do a lot of damage, make trades much easier, really help you out, and it'll be Knife Juggler, especially since I want it more early game. Okay, so here's the deck. I don't think it's very good. It's got a decent amount of early game. It does obviously have the 3 Flame Strikes, which I guess is alright. The Matter Bomber is actually probably going to prove to be very useless because we're not going to need... I mean, we might fall behind, and on turn 5 it might be alright, but otherwise, like, we have so many board clears that we don't really need it. The 2 Fireballs are obviously nice. No Water Elementals. Water Elemental is the 3rd card, along with Fireball and Flame Strike, that makes Mage so powerful. It's so difficult to deal with on turn 4. We don't have any of those. We all honestly have like nothing to play on turn 4, which is something I didn't quite think about when I chose to take that Snow Chugger over the Yeti. Maybe I should have taken the Yeti, but at that point I had no early game. Very little draw on this deck, but we have so much late game that's probably not going to be that big a deal. These games are going to be really long and drawn out for the most part, and we're just going to hope to survive, beat them with our board clears, and squeak out victories. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to play 2, let's just say 2 games, and just decision making in Arena, and why I make certain decisions and why I don't. So let's do this. Da, 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 da. So for the mulligan, we're looking for 1 and 2 drops once we queue into someone. Also, for those not as familiar with Arena, the longer it takes to queue into someone means that the system initially tries to find someone to play against you with the exact same record, and the longer it takes means that they have to skew into different records that aren't necessarily the same. So it might be 1-0 or 0-1 or whatever the situation is, but that took a little while, so it's probably not 0-0. A rogue. This deck will probably be pretty good against rogue because of the 2 fireballs. Rogue tends to lose health a lot. We are going to mulligan everything here because we have nothing to play early on. Raid Leader is not a card you play on turn 3. Ugh, kind of a drastic hand there, but the Worgen Infiltrator is... Well, thank goodness for that. This is the problem I saw with the deck when I saw how much late game there is. Filling up your hand with Flame Strikes is not good. Okay, so the only thing we have to do on this turn is to ping the Divine Shield off this. We're not going to attack because it makes that trade easy. It makes him be able to use a dagger and trade easily. And we do have a turn 3. But either way, we wouldn't attack. Arena is a game about basically making the best trades, getting the most value out of your cards. Really, it's all about value. and getting more value out of your cards than they can. Wow, so he's being very aggressive, it looks like. Yes. Now there's a decision to be made here. I could trade the Worgen Infiltrator in here, which would protect the Ogre Brute from getting or for him trading into it. Although he is being very aggressive, so he might not do that. I think I actually will do this, and I'm playing around one card, and it's Fan of Knives. If he has Fan of Knives, that's actually not even that bad for me if he has Fan of Knives, because then he just has a 1/1 out. So I'm gonna just hold. Fan of Knives would take his whole turn. We also have nothing to play next turn, so we're probably going to ping that off. It's important to look ahead to your next turn in Arena. In general, in all Hearthstone, it's really important to look to your next turn. He's going to decide whether to kill this or not. I was kind of hoping he wouldn't. Well, the Worgen Infiltrator will get some value now. That was literally the only thing I can do. I'm drawing incredibly poorly right now. And this is why you can't have too many late game cards on your deck, people. Because sometimes this happens and it's very tough. I actually have nothing to play on turn 5. It would be incredible if I drew like my other Flame Strike here. I just have to pass. But that was a very weak turn from him too. Wow. I'm not going to use a Fireball on anything. Not this, at least. That's a big waste of a Fireball. And he appears to have slowed down a little bit based on that last turn. Based on this play, though, how weak it was, he might just have a lot of removal in his hand. There's the raid leader. Which would mean that if he has a lot of removal in his hand, that'll affect my upcoming decisions. This turn I will be using Blizzard. It works perfectly. Because I'm scared of... If he just uses Assassinate to get rid of the Sunwalker, then I'm just in the same position. I haven't really fought back at all, so... He's probably playing around Flame Strike or something like that. And now he might commit a little bit more. I'm not sure. Okay. This turn is pretty easy as well. Fireball gets great value, actually gets a 1 mana plus value on here. And I get to play the Injured Blade Master. Even though his weapon trades into it, I think it's a good play because he is really being aggressive at hitting my face, and I'd like to take some damage off of my face. The Sunwalker is really going to help with that, though. Also, just a note, this card he can't use Backstab on it because it's already injured. Not really something I've thought about, but, you know, kind of cool. If he just daggers up here and passes, because he's hovering over it, then I would play the Spectral Knight. Spectral Knight is incredibly powerful against rogues a lot of the time. Okay. So, I'm going to play the Sunwalker. It's either the Sunwalker or the Boulderfist Ogre. I'm going to play the Sunwalker here. Hope he doesn't have Assassinate. I could play the Boulderfist Ogre, and technically we'd have a good trade, but then he can hit me in the face for 6, and that's not something I want. So, I'm going to hope he uses his weapon, hits this, and then kills it with the Ogre, and then I can Flame Strike him next turn with whatever else he puts on the board. Sprint. Well, I'm in pretty decent shape then. Unless, does he still have the coin? No, that's not the coin he's hovering on. What could do 1 damage that costs 1? Sinister Strike. Okay, so he's really going for my face. I need to keep this. I need to be careful here. So I can play the 4 mana and a 5 mana card. So we're going to do that. I'm going to play the Spectral Knight, and I'm going to put it in the middle. Against rogues, they have a card called Betrayal, which means the middle card's damage can be done to 2 cards on the outside. So putting a card that can't be targeted in the middle is an excellent play. And then I will hit the Ogre, because that is a lot of value I'm going to get out of Divine Shield. That's it's a 4 damage Divine Shield, as opposed to him using his face to hit that off. Also, him just assassinating that without me getting any value out of it would be devastating. So, turns out that that was a good play. Oh. Okay. If he trades, yeah, he has to trade or else he's too vulnerable to Flame Strike. But I will be Flame Striking this. I have 2 of them. Usually I like to be a little more cautious with my Flame Strikes, but when you have so many in a deck, you can kind of be a little bit reckless with them. Play the card I have. It also plays around Betrayal. This game is looking pretty good. We have Lethal on board. Oh, good play by him. Me drawing a Fireball would probably win this. In many worlds, not sure. Oh, never mind. This is a good board to Flame Strike again, though, and we're going to. We do not have Lethal. Always look for Lethal. Something to just, especially when you have the board, sometimes it can surprise you. You get really caught up in wanting to trade your minions, but we'll play the one with the least attack in the middle. Usually the play against rogues. Just, I always play around Betrayal. Always do my best to play around Betrayal. Even though this card will kill these 2. Actually, that wasn't the best placement, maybe. Maybe I wanted to keep, in this case, any of them would kill each other, so it's about which one you want to keep alive, and I guess I went with the Snow Chugger. It's probably wrong. Usually the rule of thumb is to play the one with the least attack in the middle, but when your 2 on the outside have so little health, that's not quite the case. Well, it's alright. So this is lethal. No matter what pops out of here, even if it was an Annoyatron, we could get through it. So hey, 1-0. As long as we can keep up with aggression, we should be alright. Okay, so this is just another one. Hopefully we see some more scenarios, things to learn. I hope to do more of these for different classes. So tell me what you think, and what classes you might want. So if I do get them my next arena runs, I can do an arena run for them. Okay. Ooh, the dream start, ladies and gentlemen, the dream start. Zombie Chow, Coin, Worgen Infiltrator to Amani Berserker. That is looking pretty good. I am cognizant of the fact that there's no draw in this deck, but I'm okay with that. The thing is, Flame Strike isn't just a defensive card, it can also be an offensive card, and I know I'm going to draw one at some point. So, This is an incredibly powerful start. It's just so difficult for him to catch back up. As I was saying, I don't have to. This deck is fairly defensive, but I can be aggressive with it because if you have a board and they try to come back by playing a lot of minions, if you flame strike the board, you still have a big board lead. So you can also use it in an aggressive manner. He probably is a 3/2 and he's scared to play it because of the Worgen Infiltrator. The correct play is actually to play it. At least in my opinion. Obviously, there's differing opinions. When it comes to Paladin, there is no. You can put the minions in whatever order you want. I will use this because Paladin can't just deal 1 damage. But the only reason to kind of order them differently in this deck is I have 1 Direwolf Alpha. Okay, Paladin Secrets. It's good. There are, what, 5? The one you never have to play around is Eye for an Eye. You never see it. Get Down, or Noble Sacrifice, redirects an attack. So that's the one I'm going to test for first. I'm going to test for it with my weakest minion because I'm going to be playing around Consecrate next turn because it's turn 4. So that's what it is. I don't want him to be able to have a good Consecrate. And while hitting this with that would give it a buff to a 5/2, I prefer to have it to 3 health to discourage him from using Consecrate. The other card you have to play around on turn 4 for Paladins is True Silver, but it's very difficult to play around True Silver Champion. It's a very powerful card. If he has it, he'll be able to mount a bit of a comeback here. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's a little unfortunate, especially because I have nothing to play next turn in my hand. This deck's problem, no 4-drops, but a 3-drop. That's good. Again, ordering, not that big a deal. Matter Bomber is going to be interesting to see if I want to play that next turn. Probably won't. It was not bad for me, I mean, depending on what he has here. Okay, so this Matter Bomber will probably end up killing my minion, but I think I'm going to have to use it. Because I have nothing else. Yes, I'm going to have to use it, unfortunately. So when you use Matter Bomber, be sure to attack first. It's important to you, even though it kills that, think about it like this. Either my board going into his next turn is me having a 2/1, and that's it, or me having a 5/4. And I do spend 1 card, but like I said, this deck has a lot of late game in it, and it just, I need to keep up the board. I need to make sure I establish my position. And hey, it might not die. Oh my goodness. It didn't die! Somehow it survived. You can check the percentages on that. They are very low chance that it would survive. That is excellent. And I do have a very powerful 6-drop in my hand. Maybe a Seal of Light. Yep. Again, we have to keep aggressive on the board. Bluegill Warrior doesn't do much for keeping the board. Even though you like to charge this and do a minion, it's fine. It fills out the curve. If he has a Blood Knight, I can take it out with a Fireball. I also get closer and closer to killing him. Like next turn, I can do 10 damage with what's in my hand. Wow, that's... He just gave that to me. Ooh. Fortunately, I can't play my Sunwalker while killing this. But it's just such a good trade for me. I'll do that. Now, do I play the Bluegill Warrior? This is very vulnerable to Consecration. Um, it does. I don't think this plays clear. Makes him more vulnerable to Consecration. He's already used Consecration. It does 2 more damage. I can get closer to lethal. I think that is a tipping point for me. Because he already used a Consecration. Otherwise, I don't think I'd do it. Or I'd think about when he could have used a Consecration in the past. Okay. The Bluegill Warrior turns out to pay off because I'm going to be using my Flame Strike here to keep my board for the most part. The Bluegill Warrior gets this so I can keep alive my Argent Commander. And now I'm ahead on cards, I'm ahead on board, I'm ahead on health. This game is looking fantastic. Avenging Wrath will probably kill this unless we have another Matador Bomber situation. Nope. But still, this Argent Commander got a ton of value. We are close to being able to kill him, but not quite, so we'll just make the strongest play. I could have not pinged him, but it wouldn't have mattered. Either way, I was playing these two. I guess I could have played this and then the Sunwalker, but because I can't guarantee that it pings it, this is the best play. Looks like a win. I'll just do the perfect lethal. Okay, so a little bit of what my thinking is playing Arena. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more Hearthstone content, and I'm going to be putting up some reviews of some games, specifically some PlayStation 4 ones, a lot of PlayStation Plus stuff that's free. They're going to be late because I'm not a reviewer, but something I want to do, so it's something I'm going to try and practice. Thank you, and I will see you next time.